How could you define Ukraine's victory? What scenario would be the most appropriate and efficient to preserve our statehood?
Well, I think that a lot has changed since 2014. I think Ukraine deserves to be very proud of the fact that they've repelled, what everyone thought was a world superpower, and they sent 1 million Russian soldiers home. So I think there's a lot to be proud of for Ukraine. There's still a long way to go. I mean, war is awful, no matter how you judge it. But I think that Ukraine should be very, very proud of how they've fought the Russians, particularly given if you go back to 2014. I mean, the West was sending blankets, not bullets, and the Ukrainian bravery and skill, dragged the West in to help. A lot has changed, and the future is very different than the world we faced in 2014.
What do real security guarantees mean? How should they look like?
Well, I think that a security guarantee today versus what a security guarantee was in 2014 is a vastly different thing. I mean, I think the world knows and Russia knows that they can't do this. They're just looking for a political out at this point. I mean, like I said, 1 million soldiers have lost their lives or been injured and sent home. They don't have another 1 million soldiers. The West has risen up to stand beside Ukraine. It took too long, but they did. But it was the Ukrainian bravery that actually repelled the Russians. So, do you need the same security guarantees that one would have asked for in 2014? No. I mean, it's a proven fact that the West will stand up with Ukraine. So I think words on paper have small value, but deeds are the ones that you can value. And Russia knows that if they take aggressive action again in Ukraine, that the West will stand with Ukraine, and that should be very preventative.
How you assess current negotiations? I mean, a peace plan.
Well, I mean, the baffling part is the Russians, right? I mean, I they've lost this exercise immensely. I mean, 1 million soldiers, and now they're looking for some kind of Putin is looking for some kind of political out. Uh, so I mean, I think that for the West, I mean, the most important thing that's happened in the last week or so that I see isn't necessarily negotiations. That these oil tankers are being sunk, which is again vital to the economy, the Russian economy. He can bomb empty apartment buildings all he wants, but every time an oil tanker goes down, it costs him billions. So, there's no way that he can continue to play a tough guy for very long, or his economy will come crashing down around him.
When it comes to security guarantees, I would like to get back to my previous question.
Yeah.
Do you believe that analog of fifth article of NATO will work towards Ukraine?
Yeah, I mean, I think it already has, right? I mean, you don't have to be a paper member of NATO. All of NATO is standing with you, and all of NATO will stand with you in the future. So if Russia insists that no paper is signed, that is meaningless. Who cares? Everybody in Europe is standing with Ukraine, and everybody in Europe will stand with Ukraine in the future. So I'm not too caught up on what paper agreements are signed.
You were a senior advisor for Trump during his first election campaign. You know
Yeah.
him well.
Yeah.
How could you describe Trump's logic in terms of peace negotiations? I mean, how you feel his strategy towards Kyiv and Moscow?
Well, I think Trump knows very well that Ukraine repelled the Russians, right? I mean, Ukraine is the winner here. There's no standard that says Ukraine is not the winner here. Russia lost 1 million people, billions and billions of dollars, and gained virtually nothing. And what they did lose was their status as a world superpower, which is now kind of a joke. So Ukraine is the massive winner here. But Trump does not like killing, and 7,000 soldiers a week dying on either side is pointless at this point. Ukraine won. There's disputes over territory and disputes over paper agreements, but Ukraine won, and the Ukrainian people deserve to be very proud about that.
When should Ukraine hold elections, and what circumstances does it depend on?
Well, I think one, you've got a lot of people who are living out the country, so there has to be a system about where everybody is and registering the voters to make sure that the election is free and fair, but obviously as fast as possible. And I hope this election is about the people and finally getting rid of corruption, which has been the theme for the last several elections, but unfortunately the results have not yielded much success in that. But hopefully, new leaders will step forward, and Ukraine can have a new, nationalism, and defeat not just the Russians, but also this corrupt system that needs to be completely reformed.
How do you assess Russian capabilities to continue at this war? How long will take?
Well, they can fire missiles from Russian soil at empty apartment buildings for a long time. Pretty soon, though, if oil tankers continue to go down, they won't be able to afford missiles. So they have to figure out what their political out is here. How does Putin declare some kind of victory in Moscow? And that he seems unable to do so far. So, I'm. I think that right now the fighting, blowing up empty buildings is ridiculous. He's got much more to lose than a few buildings or a few blocks. So eventually his economy will come spinning down, and the world needs to step up and make sure that happens. I mean, the Europeans can no longer buy Russian energy, and as Ukraine continues their battle against these tankers. This is very, very bad economic news for Moscow. So sooner or later, they're either going to have to find a way. We're going to have to give them a way to declare some victory and stop the war, or they're going to lose badly.
In your opinion, under what circumstances Trump will ready to send us long-range missiles as Tomahawks?
Well, I mean, the problem is everybody in the world fears that right now Russia's blowing up empty apartment buildings largely, and spending $1 million missiles to blow up empty apartment buildings. Escalation is probably not good for anybody. You fire long range missiles at them, they start firing serious missiles at Kyiv. So we need to wind down, not wind up. Russia is really aware right now that Ukraine is not to be messed with. It's cost them 1 million soldiers. So I think we need to be thinking about how it is we get the fighting to stop and teach Russia their lesson, versus thinking about bombing Moscow.
I would like to get back to my previous question, which was about elections. Actually, for our current situation, elections is a kind of challenge. You have worked for President of Argentina, Javier Milei, and you said that it was a tight election and there is a lesson for Ukraine in a new elections. What did you mean?
I think that the people, there's much more nationalism in Ukraine today than there was even in 2014. I mean, in 2014, when the invasion happened, I mean, your tanks, people went to get tanks out of barracks, and there were no batteries. There were, it was sad, and the U.S. help was a bunch of blankets from the Obama administration, which was outrageous. So I mean, it's a very different Ukraine today. It's a younger Ukraine, and it is a much more nationalistic Ukraine. But Ukraine has to defeat kind of its own demons, the corrupt system that has been allowed to operate in Ukraine for the last, well, many decades, but particularly the last few decades. The people need to rise up against the oligarchs and the corruption system, and change Ukraine from the ground up, like they've freed Ukraine from the ground up. So I think that's the biggest challenge. But it's really hard to hold elections when you don't know where people are living. You don't know how many people are actually in the country. You don't know how many people are outside of the country. You got to have a good voter list. You got to have a good voter roll before you can hold an election. So all that stuff needs to be done. But I think also, the parties need to be rebuilt. We need to change everything, and hopefully there'll be some young leaders who are not tied to the past, that will step forward and help Ukraine become the mighty Ukraine that it is today.
How do you understand Putin's strategy right now?
I don't think he has one. That's the problem. He can't declare defeat, so he needs to declare some kind of political win in Moscow, but he can't quite figure out what that is. I mean, losing 1 million soldiers for a few acres is not a very good exchange. He can't seem to figure out how it is he's going to declare victory. Instead, he's just continuing blowing up, like I said, empty apartment buildings. But his economy is at real risk. Trump's secondary sanctions on countries that are buying Russian oil are having a tremendous impact on their economy. These tankers being taken out of service will have a tremendous impact on their economy. These tankers will not be able to get insurance, that kind of stuff, so which will stop their worldwide delivery of oil, which stops the flow of dollars into their economy. So he hasn't, for some reason, he hasn't been able to figure out how it is he declares a victory and move on.
Actually, you have already responded on my next question, but I would like you to expand your thought. How could you define Russia's defeat?
Well, I think I know 1 million mothers in Russia who feel defeat. Russia's defeat is both real in terms of 1 million soldiers, but it's also very real in the world perception of Russia as a superpower has been exposed as a joke. So their defeat is long term, lasting globally. Putin has managed somehow politically in Moscow to not suffer a defeat yet. But long term, when history writes this episode, this will obviously be a very big black eye on his record. So I think they've lost the war globally easily. They've lost the reputation that they had easily. 1 million mothers are mourning, which is horrific. But Putin is not in tune with reality so far. And it seems like he wants to continue. So the only choice is to now bring down his economy.
I gotcha. How should Ukraine's post-war recovery look like?
Well, I think it should be filled with hope, optimism, and a lot of foreign direct investment. It's a chance for the country to build new everything, new factories that can compete on the global stage, rid themselves of some of the oligarchs and the anti-competitiveness that has hindered the country's growth. But also, like simple things like you got to start growing grain again, and we need to use the best technologies. And you have some of the best soil in the world, but you need the best technologies to get the grain around the world. The world needs Ukrainian grain. But there are some resources, rare earth minerals, manufacturing capabilities, energy, reflow of gas and oil, not from Russia down, but from the rest of the world up. All those things need to be invested in, and they will be. And I think the Europeans and the United States will be in with both feet to help rebuild Ukraine. We need houses, we need hospitals, we need schools, but we need jobs. And those kind of things can be done, will be done. We also need, shovels and brooms to clean up the mess and get back to work.
In your opinion, which economical scope of activity will be the most promising? I mean, how Ukraine could be integrated in world trade now and after the end of the war, and which direction of trade is the most promising?
Yeah, well, I think you've always been a very important agriculture player in the global economy. So that's probably the first part that comes back. The fertilizer industry, all those kind of things, which you're very good at. Aerospace, very good. I mean, the Ukrainian drone sector is now a world leader. That will become a very important part of your world exports. I mean, no drone companies in the world have as much experience and as sophisticated technology as has been developed in Ukraine over this last, unfortunately, during this war. So those kind of things will be very, 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 very good for Ukraine on the global stage.
Boris, thank you very much for this discussion and have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. God bless Ukraine.